Would you all kindly be seated? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Paul Wallach, the Executive Associate Dean for Educational Affairs for the Indiana University School of Medicine. Dean Hess, members of the faculty, honored guests, decanal staff, friends, family, and members of the class of 2022 commencement ceremony for the Indiana University School of Medicine is now in session. On behalf of our faculty and staff, I want to welcome all of you, our students, families, friends, and invited guests to the commencement ceremony for the class of 2022 and offer our heartfelt congratulations to the class. Would the class of 2022 please stand? This is indeed an auspicious event, one that would have been very difficult to reach without the support and assistance of family and friends. Would you all please turn around and express your thanks to those who have supported you? Thank you, and you may now be seated. To family and friends, we at the Indiana University School of Medicine want to express our thanks for all you have done for the members of the class of 2022. I'd also like to thank all of those folks who worked so hard to prepare for this day, in particular our staff in the offices of Medical Student Education and Educational Affairs. Some time ago, the class of 2022 entered this institution, hearts and minds ready to begin their fields of study. The wonderful women and men of the class of 2022 have devoted themselves to the study of medicine, healthcare, science, caring for others, concern for communities, and healing in its broadest sense. In addition to the task of successfully navigating a challenging curriculum, they have done so during a pandemic. In addition, members of this class have volunteered locally and internationally. They've worked to feed the hungry and comfort those in need. More than half have participated in substantive research, and all have provided caring for those who are ill and offered their own contribution to the healing of others. Each has continued to advance their own learning, fine-tune skills, and gain greater understanding of their roles as physicians, healthcare providers, and scientists. Each recognizes that learning is a lifelong enterprise and has expressed commitment to that endeavor. The medical graduates will continue in residencies in 32 states and in 25 specialties. None of the students present could have made it to this point without help. In addition to the family and friends we've already acknowledged, for our graduates from clinical programs, we owe a debt of gratitude to the patients who permitted you to provide care while learning medicine. Please remember the patients who permitted you into their lives into their intimate spaces. As well, you have all been fortunate to have a devoted faculty who have taught, mentored, encouraged, and supported you over the last 4 years. Will you please join me in thanking our faculty? Class of 2022, the Indiana University School of Medicine is proud of you. It is our hope that you remain close, connected, and care about your medical school as you continue into your career. As you are about to graduate, you join generations of alumni who are leaders in their communities and innovators in the fields of medicine and biomedical research. I have the utmost confidence that you will further their tradition of excellence in every pursuit, and that you will do so with the singular spirit of optimism that has long defined our IU School of Medicine family. It is now my privilege to acknowledge the members of the stage party and other distinguished guests, including IU School of Medicine leadership, department chairs, regional campus deans, faculty, leaders of our partner institutions and health systems, and the members of our leadership team who are all here today to join in support of our graduates and celebrate their outstanding achievements. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Jim Ferris, President of the School of Medicine's Alumni Association. It is now my honor to introduce Dr. Jl Hess, who became Dean of the School of Medicine and Executive Vice President for University Clinical Affairs at Indiana University on September 1st, 2013. Dr. Hess received his MD and PhD degrees from the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, a certificate in business administration from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, and a MHSA degree from the University of Michigan School of Public Health. A hematopathologist by training, Dr. Hess has led a significant growth in research funding, has recruited outstanding leaders for the school, has led successful reaccreditation, and has made plans for a new medical school building in Indianapolis. Dr. Hess serves as an inspirational and transformational leader of our School of Medicine and University. Please join me in welcoming Dean J Hess.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome students of the class of 2022, families, friends, and invited guests. Whether you've spent time pursuing an undergraduate health professions degree or a master's degree, or doing research and pursuing a PhD, or focusing on your MD, or some combination of those, I've had the privilege of presiding over a number of events celebrating your achievements over the last several years. And I couldn't be more proud of what you've accomplished individually and as a class, especially given the trying times we've had over the last several years. You've shown remarkable professionalism and resilience throughout your time with us, not only completing your degrees, but also in contributing to keep our community safe, whether it was through gathering PPE for frontline workers, or working as contact tracers, or giving vaccinations, or caring for patients, and in countless other ways, your compassion, determination, and grit shined. Many of you also stepped up as our nation confronted the issues of systemic racism. You used your collective voice to amplify the voices of those who historically have been marginalized. And you've worked alongside our school leadership on task forces and other initiatives to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that your class did its part to make the IU School of Medicine more welcoming and inclusive for everyone. From the time you arrived, you've shown remarkable leadership. You looked across the school and you saw areas that could be improved, and then you went and did something about it. You've been forthcoming with ideas and recommendations, for which I'm personally very grateful. I couldn't ask for a more engaged student body, and you've been an inspiration to me. So now the time's come to bid farewell. And as I do, I want to remind you how much people will be depending on you for good medical care, for biomedical research, for improved public health. The work that you do will change lives. It's important for the people in our communities, in the nation, and the world. So regardless of where you're headed next, each one of you is a success story. It's understandable that you have some concerns and anxieties about what lies ahead, but you can be confident that the IU School of Medicine has prepared you well. I hope you'll remember all of us here in the School of Medicine and that you will keep in touch. And always remember, we'll be watching your careers with great interest and pride, seeing how you're going to leave your mark on humanity. So thank you, class of 2022, for letting us be a part of your journey, and congratulations. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. David Ansel, a physician and author who's a fierce advocate for medically underserved populations. Dr. Ansel is the Michael E. Kelly Presidential Professor of Internal Medicine and Senior Vice President and Associate Provost for Community Health Equity at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. He earned his medical degree from the State University of New York at Syracuse and his Master's of Public Health and Epidemiology from the University of Illinois. Dr. Ansel did his medical training at Cook County Hospital in Chicago, and he spent 13 years at Cook County as an attending physician and ultimately was appointed chief of the Division of General Internal Medicine there. From 1995 to 2005, he was chair of internal medicine at Mount Sinai in Chicago. He was recruited to Rush University Medical Center as its inaugural chief medical officer in 2005, a position that he held until 2015. His research and advocacy has been focused on eliminating health inequities. In 2011, he published a memoir of his times at Cook County Hospital called County: Life, Death, and Politics at Chicago's Public Hospital. His latest book is The Death Gap: How Inequality Kills, published in 2017. Dr. Ansel addresses the widening health gap and the disturbing reality that poor urban Black people die sooner than almost any other Americans. He has witnessed firsthand the lives behind these devastating statistics, and he calls upon each of us to do our part to eradicate health inequity, as so many of you in the class of 2022 have already begun doing and will no doubt continue to do throughout your careers. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David Ansel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Deans, faculty, family, friends, staff, and graduates, thank you for the honor of addressing the Indiana University School of Medicine graduates of 2022. When I told my daughter, a New York City cosmetic dermatologist, that I was speaking in Indianapolis, among all the wonderful things about Indy, I mentioned it was the home of John Dillinger, the bank robber. And she asked me, why would anyone choose to rob banks? And I said, well, you know the saying, because that's where the money is. I get it, she said. That's why I chose dermatology. Now, I'm just a simple primary care doctor who served on the west side of Chicago for a long time now. And seeing a world of healthcare through the eyes of my patients and communities. And a long time ago, I decided that in addition to being a primary care doctor and all of my administrative roles, that I have to be a human rights activist. I'm calling on all of our grads today to think about your work through the lens of human rights. A little more than 4 years ago, and for some of you more recently and some of you longer, you received the great news that you've been accepted to the School of Medicine. To earn the title of doctor, PhD, scientist, you have to be just surrounded by a community of love. And it's so important that you give back to those communities. You will begin your next step, either residency training or job, as the nation emerges from the worst public health emergency since the great influenza pandemic of 1918. You came to the School of Medicine to make a difference in the lives of your patients and your communities, but are you prepared to make a different world? And to make a different world, clinical skills, scientific skills, research skills, clinical intelligence will not suffice alone. There's an urgent need for leaders, doctors, scientists with ethical intelligence. What do I mean by ethical intelligence? Ethical intelligence requires us to be guided by a moral compass to act on behalf of our patients and communities for the sake of improving health. It means going beyond the hospital and laboratory walls to address the social and structural influencers that determine who lives and who dies. We all have ethical intelligence. You can't become a doctor or a scientist or a health worker without it. But does your ethical intelligence gird you with the courage, the moral courage, to address not just clinical pathologies, but the social pathologies that cause premature death? The stakes are high. We will never forget the last 29 months of COVID-19. Over 1 million deaths in 2 years, more U.S. deaths than all who died in all the wars in the United States. Think about it, bigger than the city of Indianapolis. More people have died. The U.S. has 4% of the world's population, yet 16% of the world's COVID-19 deaths. It's twice that of Canada. Of the world's 29 highest income countries, the U.S. has experienced the largest decline in life expectancy in 2020, a lot of it in young people. And unlike Europe, life expectancy did not bounce back in 2021. No one here should think this is normal nor acceptable, and no one here should think we can't change it. The hammer of COVID-19 did not strike evenly in the U.S. COVID-19 reminded us that despite our equal biologic vulnerability, our social vulnerability varied. And we witnessed how social and political pathologies like racism, lack of insurance, immigration status, poverty, and toxic politics were greater determinants of life and death than the virus itself. Black and Latinx populations had twice the mortality rates of whites. The juxtaposition of disproportionate Black COVID-19 deaths with the murder of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter protests raised the possibility of a new era of racial reckoning in the United States, particularly in healthcare. There were declarations all around the country that racism was a public health crisis, but actions speak louder than words. If you point out a problem, you get 1 point in the world, but if you fix a problem, you get 100 points. Are you willing to use your ethical intelligence to begin to help fix these big problems? Let me give you an example of ethical intelligence in action. It was early pandemic, March 2020. The focus in Chicago, like everywhere else, was on hospital emergency preparedness, ventilators, masks, testing, staffing. Our medical students were pulled by the university from the free clinic at a shelter for people experiencing homelessness. An urgent meeting was called with the shelter director. We decided it was unethical to abandon this community. And our students, like you students here, really jumped into helping to solve this problem. It was also an issue of racial health equity, as almost 80% of those experiencing homelessness in Chicago are Black and Latinx. The city's plan to social distance the beds in the shelter, reduce the capacity by 1/3, displaced folks to the streets, was expedient but wrong. If someone got sick, they'd be sent to the city's already overwhelmed emergency room. Shelter workers were quitting by the day for fear of their safety. It was a recipe for super spreading and excess mortality. So we met daily with other providers, the shelters, folks with lived experiencing, housing advocates in the city. The table grew to over 100 partners. We leveraged our collective ethical intelligence to create a plan to contain COVID-19 spread across the shelters. It was bold, it was unsolicited, there was no funding, and it worked. We sent teams to the shelters, we mooched scarce COVID tests and PPE from our hospitals. In the beginning, over 50% of the asymptomatic shelter residents were COVID positive. We consulted our infectious disease doctors and encouraged universal masking in Chicago shelters weeks before the CDC or the local health departments. We hijacked a shipment of masks sent from Project Hope to Chicago. We didn't really hijack it, we diverted it. And then we got the Chicago medical students over the weekend delivered 25,000 masks to all the shelters, something that they named Operation Hope. We opened an isolation respite shelter for those experiencing both homelessness and COVID, staffed by nurses 24 hours a day. We commandeered a hotel to shield the most physically vulnerable among the homeless from COVID, and we nudged the city to provide rapid access to permanent housing. Resistance melted away, and this work was embraced by the city. The severity of the pandemic in this population was measurably mitigated. Chicago, the third largest city in the United States, was 7th in COVID mortality. We made a difference. We led with ethical intelligence. Ethical intelligence requires we think about the resource allocations through the eyes of communities in need and not just through the narrower lens of our institutional priorities. And it necessitates centering on the authentic voice of the community, often the voices of those who've been historically marginalized. It usually requires us all to act before all the resource questions are addressed. And it demands we act at moments when there can be personal, reputational, organizational, and financial risk. And that's kind of a big lift. Central to ethical intelligence is the practice of accompaniment, the obligation of doctors, scientists, healthcare workers to walk alongside or accompany those who are in need until the health concerns of the individuals and the communities have been addressed. I don't know about you, but accompaniment was not a skill I learned in medical school. Accompaniment is a special obligation of the oath you're going to take today. The oath we take is not to a government, not to a corporation, an insurance company, but to the service of patients. For those of us who are taking care of patients during this pandemic, including our students and faculty and nurses, we all learn the true meaning of this oath, what it means to serve others selflessly while confronting our own fears. When you enter professional school, medical school, you do not completely appreciate that our public vow to the service of others is not conditional. But the fault lines revealed by the pandemic reminded us that we cannot divorce the practice of the art and science of medicine from these larger global social and political concerns. We live in a nation with growing wealth and social inequality, where the top 1% have more wealth than the whole middle class, where basic human rights like access to fair wages, affordable housing, food, education, and health care are out of reach for so many people, particularly for the working poor who comprise so many of our patients. The data also suggests a national epidemic of psychological strain born of despair. And in Chicago, we just recently received data that 1 out of 5 black people, 1 out of 5 Latinos are experiencing grief because of the loss of loved ones, about 1 in 10 white folks in Chicago. I'm sure these findings are the same all across the country. So when you go to your next step, ask your patients about their lived experiences, inquire about their social needs and their mental status, accompany them on their recovery. But our communities also need you graduates to be leaders in addressing the big social issues of our time that contribute to premature and unjust mortality. I'll name 3 that need your attention. The urgent need for universal guaranteed health care, the urgent need to eradicate racism in healthcare, and the need to build a better system of public health preparedness. Most Americans believe that healthcare is a human right, but not all doctors and healthcare workers are willing to advocate for that right. COVID-19 exposed all the flaws of our privatized, free market, and racialized healthcare system, where often margin takes precedence over community and individual health. The delivery system rewards hospitals for performing elective surgery, but not to provide critical care and emergency services for people in need. We heard many stories of people who delayed coming to the hospital or died for fear of the financial burden, or large hospitals that would not accept transfers of critically ill patients for small urban and rural hospitals for financial and other concerns. Millions of uninsured in the U.S. are still unable to access the most basic ambulatory care, and large copays and deductibles keep insured people from seeking the care they need. You've heard about the $300 bottle of insulin that costs $30 in Canada. We can do better. You will be forced in your practice to delay or deny care for financial and other reasons. But will you have the courage to act when you have a patient who's been excluded by reason of insurance, immigration status, or social conditions? 75% of American doctors are now employed by one company or another. If your corporate employer's policy is to deny a patient access, will you have the ethical intelligence and courage to challenge us? You will have choices where you work. Work in an underserved community. Pick an employer who allows you to see patients on Medicaid and the uninsured. Volunteer at free clinics. Advocate for Medicaid expansion and for single-payer health care. Join professional organizations to amplify your voice. Healthcare should be a fundamental human right with universal access and guaranteed health care for all, with everyone in and nobody out. And will you be an advocate for reproductive rights? Human rights advocacy includes the right of women and men in the privacy of the doctor-patient relationship to make decisions about birth control, family planning, including pregnancy and abortion, without the intrusion of government, religion, or corporate policies. Graduates, regardless of our personal beliefs, there is no place for government in the doctor-patient relationship. With determination and focus and intentionality, yours could be the generation that finally ends racism in healthcare. The Commonwealth Fund recently published data, and COVID demonstrated to all of us that there are pervasive racial health gaps across all the health systems in the United States. In every state in the Union, Black people have higher mortality compared to whites for conditions for which access to high-quality health care would make a difference. In no state did white people have worse health outcomes than Blacks for treatable conditions. Now, in many states in this country, the life expectancy of white people is dropping at all. We're not celebrating the conditions for health for white people in this country, but Black people systematically have worse outcomes. It's about systematic racism and how it harms. James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. It's a fact our systems of health delivery have perpetuated and tolerated racial and other health inequities, it's not the only one, at large cost to life itself. Between 60,000 and 80,000 excess Black Americans die each year early, before the age of 65, because they do not have the same health outcomes as whites. It starts by acknowledging that racism and other social pathologies, like poverty, are as critical to disease causation as a mosquito is to the transmission of malaria. It requires us to take a race-conscious approach to looking at our systems of care to identify ways to remove the pervasive obstacles that keep our communities, particularly communities of color, from receiving the best care, and a need to redress by partnering with communities to design ways to meaningfully improve access to the best care. You can start this work by becoming an anti-racist yourself, to work to eliminate race-based calculators so pervasive in medicine, by examining the health outcomes of your patients by race, ethnicity, gender, and language, and identifying ways to mitigate the gap, and by encouraging the expansion in the ranks of doctors, nurses, scientists, boards, health system leaders, with leaders of color. And that leads us to the third interconnected challenge that requires the moral courage of all of us to solve. The U.S. was woefully unprepared for COVID-19 because we had allowed our public health system to degrade over the last few decades. We lacked testing capabilities, the masks, and the public health workforce to protect the vulnerable early in the pandemic. Because so often the frontline workers who care for those in congregate settings like shelters or nursing homes are people of color, they brought the virus home where it spread across neighborhoods. The greatest threat to the national security of our nation is not global warfare, but another global pandemic like COVID-19, which will certainly come. It's going to take a reinvestment in the foundation of our social and healthy care safety nets from community clinics, public hospitals, academic medical centers, and public health departments, so the next time we'll be better prepared. And we need leaders like you with the ethical intelligence to reimagine public health in the United States. As you enter the next phase of your career, the world cannot afford you to retreat into the isolation of your profession and its clinical and scientific practice alone. We urgently need you to advance the causes of healthcare as a human right, anti-racism, and public health preparedness. And lead with optimism and joy. This is a terrific profession. We get to save lives. Our worst days are nothing like the worst days of our patients. We have so much to give. Optimism guided the work of the late Dr. Paul Farmer, the humanitarian physician and founder of Partners in Health. Dr. Farmer developed community-based treatment strategies in life-saving social and medical care in resource-poor settings for neglected populations. Farmer understood that the calamities like COVID-19 pandemic and dropping life expectancy in our nation are not acts of God, but had social causation. And this fact that there are human-made problems should give all of us optimism that we can make a difference. If you lead with ethical clarity and intelligence, as Farmer did, complex social and health problems can be mitigated, if not solved. This requires all of us to reject the cynicism and defeatism that gets in the way of acting boldly on behalf of those most systemically excluded. Graduates, you have worked so hard to get to this day. Go save lives, go make a difference, and while you're at it, make a different world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ansel, for those inspiring remarks. Before we begin presenting our graduates with their hoods and diplomas, I'd like to recognize the students who participated in the Scholarly Concentration Program. This program offered a longitudinal extracurricular experience through medical school that combines topic-specific coursework and a scholarly project and a topic of personal interest, typically resulting in the submission of a manuscript for publication. Students gain valuable skills that will serve them through their careers. Unique scholarly concentrations are based at campuses throughout the state, reflecting the excellence that exists at each IU School of Medicine campus. It is with great pleasure that we celebrate the graduation of 73 IU School of Medicine students who have earned scholarly concentration program designations in this, just the third year of the program. Those individuals graduating with a scholarly concentration are listed individually in the program. These graduates were first-year medical students when they started the program and navigated through the disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. If you are one of these graduates who we are recognizing for completing the scholarly concentration, would you please stand in your place? These graduates represent the following scholarly concentrations: Wait, hold your applause to the end. We'll get a chance. Biomedical engineering and applied medical technology, biomedical research, business of medicine, care of the Hispanic Latino patient, ethics, equity, and justice, genetics and medicine, health information technology, health integration and healthy aging, health promotion and disease prevention, public health, quality and innovation, rural health, and urban medicine and healthcare disparities. Now we can... I am so proud of the commitment and creativity of these learners and of the faculty and staff who have taught, mentored, and supported them through the Scholarly Concentration Program. These students are pioneers and have led the way for more than 300 of their colleagues who are currently enrolled in the program, where we'll begin it this summer. Congratulations to all, and you may now be seated. I would also like to call attention to another remarkable group of graduates. These are individuals who will be serving our country as commissioned officers in the armed forces. I would like to commend these graduates for their commitment to both the practice of medicine as well as to service to our country. Would you kindly stand as I call your name? Luis Garcia, Max Afoma, Patrick Graff, Lydia Sickbert, Bradley James Atoa, Lee Fan Fan, Connor Hamilton, and Cody Howell. If the audience would please join me in thanking these individuals. And you all now may be seated. We will now present the hoods and diplomas to our graduates. Here are a few details to help you recognize the different hoods and distinctions you'll see on stage. The color of all Masters of Science degree candidate hoods is gold, and the Doctor of Medicine candidate hood is green. The Doctor of Philosophy hood color is royal blue, and the lining of the hoods is cream and crimson, the school colors for Indiana University. I would also call your attention to the honors designations worn by some of our graduates. The green and gold Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society cords designate Doctor of Medicine students who are graduating with the highest academic distinction. And the gold honor cords designate Doctor of Medicine students who are graduating with highest distinction for humanism in medicine. Once we begin the presentation of hoods and diplomas, we would ask that you hold your applause until the conclusion of the physician's oath, when Dean Hess will present the class of 2022. At this time, I'd like to invite Dean Hess, Vicki Bonds, and Lauren Easterling to assist me in presenting the Master of Science in Medical Science hoods and diplomas. I'd also ask our student marshal and Dr. Marty Reeser to prepare our Master of Science in Medical Science graduates to come up on the stage. Sifan Glory Benson. Caleb Edwards. Chenesai Moya Mari Mirirofa. Kyle Edwards. Danae Nesbitt. Joanna Neshkova. Rosario Saldivar. Janae Saunders. Lauren White. Justice Lauren Williams. This concludes our Master of Science in Medical Science graduates. We'll continue with the Master of Science and doctoral degrees in our graduate division. I'd like to invite Dr. Tatiana Faroud to the podium and ask Dr. Thomas Hurley and Dr. Alex Roebling to assist Dr. Faroud in presenting the Master of Science hoods.
Thank you, Dr. Wallach. Good afternoon. It's an honor and privilege to confer graduate-level degrees on our students who have chosen to pursue studies in a wide variety of research areas in which the practice of medicine depends. We'll begin today by awarding Masters of Science degrees. Master of Science in Clinical Research, Jennifer Brewington Dickerson. Vinod Kumar. Master of Science, Alexis Higgins. Carson Cecil. Brittany Davis. Mackenzie Gee. Amber Glass, Noelle Faustina, Louise Luling. Huda Mahmood, Michael Serven. Irish Starkey, Alexis Swengendorf. Adam Green, Colton Starcher. Huda Hussein Ajrush, Taylor Kenyon. Danielle Rose McDonald, Julia Turcardama. Margaret Mayer, Teresa O'Brien. Allison Rickman, Lauren Roser. Rachel Worth Ritter Scooten, Caitlin Sicknick. Taylor Eileen Steyer, Olivia Lorena Martin. Perfect. This concludes our Master of Science graduates. We will continue with the presentation of diplomas. We will continue with the presentation of diplomas and hoods to our Doctor of Philosophy graduates. These graduates have selected individual faculty mentors to hood them, so you will see different faculty members assisting me with this presentation. Thank you, Drs. Hurley and Dr. Roebling. You may now be seated. If Xiaoming Jin could please join me on stage as Yadif Adhikari comes forward. Yadif Adhikari. Okay. I'm so sorry. Okay, and I'm trying to find the next one. So sorry. Where's this one? Where's oh, okay, excuse me. Sorry. Would Dr. Mark Kaplan please join me and take Dr. Jin's place as Rafat Al-Jufi comes forward. It's okay. Okay. Would Dr. Ronald Weck please join me and take Dr. Kaplan's place as Parth Hittenbai Ahmed comes forward. Would Dr. Joseph Bidwell please join me and take Dr. Kaplan's place as Emily Atkinson comes forward. Would Dr. Amber Mosley please join me and take Dr. Bidwell's place as Caitlin Hughes Burris comes forward. Would Dr. Tom Hurley please join me and take Dr. Mosley's place as Nupir Kirthi Devi comes forward. Would Dr. Dave McKenzie please join me as Omar El Jordi comes forward. Would Dr. Lillian Plotkin please join me as Allison L. Essex comes forward? Would Dr. Zina Zhang please join me as Haniye Ivane comes forward? Would Dr. Margaret McNulty please join me as Dr. Hannah L. Harriet comes forward? Would Dr. Sakin please join me as Dr. Tanner Jacobson comes forward? Would Dr. Zimmers please come forward as Danique Jangeli comes forward? Would Dr. Haitugual please come forward as Dr. Alexander Marchetti comes forward? Would Dr. Heather Francis please come forward as Dr. Vic Meadows comes forward? Would Dr. Amelia Lingeman please join me as Charwin Yamure Latharan please come forward? Would Dr. Heather O'Leary please come forward as Dr. Paige Dawasinas Nee comes forward? Would Dr. Kenneth White please join me as Dr. Megan Lee Noonan comes forward? Would Dr. Tim Corson please join me as Dr. Bomina Park comes forward? Would Dr. Brady Atwood please join me as Caitlin Reeves come forward? Dr. Caitlin Reeves. Would Dr. Jessica Byram please join me as Dr. Kyle Robertson comes forward? Would Dr. Liana Pastelova please join me as Dr. Apurva Barthasunji comes forward? Dr. Xiangmin Liu, please join me as Dr. Yifan Sun comes forward. Would Dr. Matt Allen please join me as Dr. Elizabeth Ann Swallow comes forward? Would Dr. Andrew Sakin please join me as Dr. Cecily Gwynn Swinford comes forward? Would Dr. Stephanie Bissell please join me as Dr. Danica Tumbleson-Brink comes forward? Would Dr. Tom Hurley please join me as Dr. Shwerjiri Wang comes forward? Would Dr. Uma Sankar please join me as Dr. Justin Williams comes forward? Okay. Would Dr. Patrick Sheets please join me as Dr. Shudi Zoa comes forward? We have 4 students with us today who have completed an arduous program that requires extensive study and additional credit hours in order to receive a combined degree, a Doctor of Medicine as well as a Doctor of Philosophy. These students will be hooded for both degrees today. Therefore, you will see these 2 students bring 2 hoods up on stage. These graduates have also selected faculty members to perform the hooding for their Doctor of Philosophy degree. If Dr. Wade Clapp could please join me to present the Doctor of Medicine hoods. I'll also ask Dr. Andrew Sakin to please come forward for the first Doctor of Philosophy hood. I'll also ask Dr. Antoine Hayward to come forward to present the Doctor of Medicine graduates with their diplomas. I now ask Dr. Megan Bernath to come forward. Would Dr. Brittany Shea Herbert please join me and take Dr. Sakin's place as Dr. Shara Muhammad comes forward. Would Dr. William Sullivan please join me and take Dr. Herbert's place as Dr. Jennifer Martinowitz comes forward. Would Dr. Mark Kaplan please join me and take Dr. Sullivan's place as Dr. Benjamin Ulrich comes forward? Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Farood. Now I'd like to ask our student marshals to please bring our Doctor of Medicine graduates forward to receive their hoods and diplomas. Two at a time. No, you stay. I invite Dr. Rich Sellers to join us on stage, and the next riser next, Dr. Clapp. And Dr. Haywood will please join to help present diplomas. Dr. Amy Achiko, Dr. Sachin Agarwal, Dr. Eric J. Axo, Dr. Brianna Alex, Dr. Francesca Alvarado Doby, Dr. Alan Jose Alvarez de Sotomayor, Dr. Matthew Terrell Anderson, Dr. Chiamara Anakute, Dr. Sean Joseph Anthony, Dr. Peyton Keith Arnold, no, this is happy. Dr. Stephanie Marie Asdell, Dr. Aaron Bauman, Dr. Mackenzie Barber, Dr. Kyle Mackenzie Baugh, Dr. Margaret Diane Becker, Dr. Brianna Bell, Dr. Jessica Marie Burns, Dr. Ashok Biju, Dr. Bianca Sophia Blattner, Dr. William Thomas Bloom, Dr. Alejandro Enrique Bolivar, Dr. Wesley Borman, Dr. William Thorson Bridgman, Dr. Kayla Alexis Brown, we'll now pause and allow Dr. Zellers and Clapp to step down, invite Dr. David Wallace, Dr. Bobby Byrne to take their place. Jamie Arthur Brown, Sarah Jane Bruns, Sean Addison Bueller, Lauren Olivia Bryant, Michaela Burrell, Natalie Campbell, Jessica Chang, Hannah Clark Jones, Catherine Bigelow Clements, Alexander Close, Emily Coleman, Sarah Carolyn Combs, Lydia Cook, Bethany Francis Cook. Lewis Keller Cook, Adam Williamson Correa. Jordan Michelle Cox, Timothy Kroll. Christian Cuevas, Olivia Mary Cummings, Michael Dan, Lindsay Darno, Stephen Edward Dawson, Elizabeth Jean Day, Nicole DeFries, Madison Nicole DeGoy, Sarah DeBezorgi, Taylor Deist, Anne Dela Cruz, we'll now pause and allow Drs. Wallace and Byrne to step down and invite Dr. Ashley Inman and Rakesh Mehta to take their place on the risers. Harkirat Singh Dami, Kennedy Ellen Elizabeth Devine, Tyler Dome, Austin David Thomas Dukes, Jamie Jean Durbin, Eamon Eccles, Emma Elizabeth Eckroat, Shanice Lynn Ellis, Ashley Elrod, William Embry, David Jonathan Emch, Uchechukwe Amelie. Caitlin Enderly. Amanda Essex. Braden Estes. Trisha de Jesus Factora. Lifan Fan. Hassan Farouk. Mitchell Fennerty. Nicholas Andrew Ferguson. Sarah Grace Fisher. Leah Danielle Frischman. Austin David Gaby. Ryan Gandy. Luis Garcia. Christian Garcia. I'll now pause and ask Dr. Bradley Allen to the podium to assist with announcing names. While Drs. Inman and Meta step down, I invite Dr. Alexander Roebling and Dr. Michelle Howenstein to take their place. Also invite Dr. Abigail Clems to the stage to present diplomas. Dr. Allen.
Mason Gay. Vanessa Beatriz Gehring. Annie Genzel. Joel Gehrig. Priyanka Ghosh. Aaron Galani. Isaac Kane Glusenkamp. Harrison Goldenberg. Kaylee Christine Goldner. Andrea Gonzalez. Jason Graff. Patrick Graff. Jacob Graham. Mitchell Gray. Lennon Wallace Gregor. Brianna Morgan Grisby. Gustavo Macarios Krasinski. Zachary James Gunderson. Ashley Hacker. Aida Suhail Haddad. Abigail Hadley. Haley Annette Hall. John Hall. Delaney Therese Halloran. Connor Hamilton. Kevin Brian Hammond. Thank you for the reminder. Let me pause and allow Drs. Roebling and Howenstein to step down and invite Dr. Clark Simons and Dr. Jeffrey Piper to take their place on the risers. Clarissa Hanna. Michael James Harding. Kate Lauren Harris. Madison Harris. Weston He. Rebecca McFadden Hendricks. Michael Hinton. Connor Timothy Holcomb. Eric Garvin Holder. Samantha Fair Holmes. Livia Marie Hopper. Hannah House. Cody Christopher Howell. Lauren Ashley Hauser. Sarah Huber. David Houston. Brian Hyatt. Andrew Incandela. Rebecca Joanne Israel. Brandon Thomas Jacobs. James Michael Jennings. Jacob Jozwiakowski. Colton Juneau. Emily Kane. Keisha Candoy. Amani Naz Kareem. Let me pause and allow Dr. Simons and Dr. Piper to step down and invite Dr. Shemin Neal and Dr. Stephen Becker to take their place on the risers. Onish Karlapudi. Jasmine Carr. Sydney Keller. Daniel Kim. Ibrahim Khan. Marya Khan. Brandon Joseph Keeley. Shannon Marie Colleen. Nude Kiros. Eric Charles Klipsch. Thomas Knowles. Dominic Kowalczyk. Justin Nicholas Kryshak. Erica Kubashik. Corinne Ann Kumar. Isaac Lamb. Matthew Lang. Zachary William Lee. Kirsten Ann Lewis. Amanda Marino Lima. Kevin Lynn. Albert Liu. Elena Loya. Bethany Luder. Jonathan Lynch. Emily Michelle Sampson Lyons. Margaret Elizabeth McPhail. Let me pause and allow Drs. Neal and Becker to step down and invite Dr. Peter Young and Dr. Dimitrios Stefanidis to take their place on the risers. Joseph Andrew Madden. Magdalena Maria Magino. Orlando David Maldonado. Natalie Marie Mark. Ryan Andrew McBride. Randall David McComb. Jonathan McKeeman. Cheney McWilliams. Cale Jeffrey Mellum. Samantha Ann Mello. Christian Mendez. Christopher Miao. Gabrielle McKelly. Reese Miller. Dana Catherine Mitchell. Amr Mohideen. Lydia Monarian Sickbert. Ashton Moody. Kelly Pryor Morton. Sean Mulligan. Uni Naw. Radisov Nabzhizky. Sai Nelanuthula. Tyler Nichols. Christopher Brown O'Connor. Ian Tyler Oshel. Let me pause and ask Dr. Emily Walvard to the podium to assist with the announcing of the names of the graduates, while Drs. Young and Stefanita step down and invite Dr. Antoine Haywood and Dr. Paul Wallach to take their place. I also invite Dr. Shemin Neal to the stage to present the diplomas.
Max Ofama. William Gunnar O'Neill. Lauren Ray Osborne. Ruth Amarachi Osborne. Vitalis Osuji. Jordan Ozelin. Pooja Pandita. Alexia Marie Para. Zachary Richard Patton. Neeta Putwari. Michael Payne. Erin Nicole Perez. Jonah Persinger. Natasha Petruska. Lauren Pitts. Ryan Davis Plunkett. Nicholas James Polster. Ashley Brianna Poole. Trevor Poplevko. Brian William Porter. Kayla Powell. Ruben Prado. Anjali Prakash. Cassandra Sue Prather. Courtney Rabb. Meghana Rao. Bryson Ratcliffe. Megan Ashley Reed. Let me pause and allow Drs. Haywood and Wallach to step down, and now invite Dr. Elizabeth Ryan and Dr. Ruben Hernandez to take their place on the risers. Luke Andrew Richardson. Sydney Rivera. Gabriella Romo. Alexandra Roper. Emma Lenore Ross. Lucas William Rowe. Matthew Royeka. Grace Elizabeth Rushton. Morgan Elizabeth Psycho Blair. Brian Saldana. Rodolfo Javier San Juan. Jasmine Divine Sanchez. Taylor Alexandra Shetzley. Georgia Lee Schaefer. Jared Scott Schenk. Allison Nicole Schieffer. Caitlin Schmidt. William Pierre Schrock. Sacham Sitharam. Griffin Tyler Selch. Zachary Julian Card Shoemaker. Andrew James Sickbert. Rebecca Shope Sides. Christian Sikoski. Let me pause and allow Drs. Ryan and Hernandez to step down and invite Dr. Jennifer Schwartz and Dr. Abigail Clems to take their places on the risers. Isaiah Sloss. Sierra Nicole Smith. Madeline Claire Smith. Cameron Shiel Smock. Gabrielle Snyder. James C. Soderstrom. Leo Hajang Song. Michael Cyrus Spores. Catherine Stahlbaum. Emily Kristen Steele. Aaron Steele. Samuel David Steckelman. Annie Elizabeth Steftenagel. Cody Charles Stewart. John Eugene Stilson. Ari Morris Stoner. Brooke Strader. Joshua Streveler. Kyle Jacob Sturdy. Christopher Sublett. Singyup Sun. Quentin Thompson. Andrew Ten. Samantha Tillman. Daniel Torolira. Jackson Townsend. Alexandra Maria Trevino. Blagoycha Tremowski. Thank you. Weston Troja. Let me now pause and allow Drs. Schwartz and Clems to step down and invite Dr. Clark Simons and Dr. Tatiana Faroud to take their place on the risers. Elena Marie Turchi. Gary Lawrence Ulrich. Grant Harrison Van Ness. Jose Antonio Velez II. Holly Van Diemen. Peter Anthony Vasallo. Nicole Marie Villager. William John Vors. Jake Wagner. Sydney Nicole Waller. Caleb Daniel Ware. Adam Christopher Warner. Adam Jeffrey Warwick. Patrick Watson. Casey Michael Wendorf. Evan Wethington. Heidi Elizabeth White. Catherine Wersbowski. Sydney Wilhite. Cody James Williams. Jennifer Wilson. Stephanie Marie Wilson. Chelsea Witzberger. Andre Wolashuk. David Aaron Wong. Lindsay Faye Wood. Lauren Elizabeth Wright. Joey Wu. Fiorella Yep Mandizabal. Tiana Vandermissen Young. Ellen Grace Yos. Ajal Sadiq Zaidi. Rebecca Zaf Pedreza. Matthew Zielinski. Taylor James Zeich. This concludes our Doctor of Medicine graduates. Let me pause to allow You can never clap enough for all of these graduates, right? Congratulations. I now have the pleasure of introducing our Dr. Uche Chukwu Amili. She is a member of the class of 2020 and is now invited to make comments on behalf of the class. Dr. Amili started medical school at the Fort Wayne campus, and she has been an extremely positive contributor to the school through serving on the admissions committee, performing research, and volunteering at the student outreach clinic, to name a few. She will begin her career in orthopedic surgery at The Ohio State University. Welcome, Dr. Amili.
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to the class of 2022. We did it, friends. My name is Uche Chukwu Amili. I am incredibly humbled and honored to be standing and speaking with you all today. I'm grateful to my classmates, deans, MSc leadership for nominating me to speak on this memorable day. I know I talk a lot, so I'm happy to see that you all like my voice enough to give me this opportunity. To our deans, board of trustees, faculty, lead advisors, shout out to Jin, family, friends, on behalf of the class of 2022, I would like to offer our sincere gratitude for your care and support over the years. Thank you. Reflecting on my time as a student here, I remember why I chose IU in the first place. As a resident of the great state of New York, it always struck people as odd when I told them that I decided on the IU School of Medicine, especially those that know how close I am to my family. I come from a large family, one of 9. But something I realized is that the moment I stepped onto this campus, my family began to grow. Now I am proud to say that I am one of 350 plus outstanding, newly minted Hoosier doctors. I still remember my interview day and the feeling that consumed me as I walked through Ruth Lilly Library and Fessler Hall. I distinctly remember meeting Andrea Gonzalez, and we both bonded over being from out of state. Andrea has served our class on the Medical Student Council, working as a liaison between our class and the deans to ensure that student voices were heard. She will go on to serve as an OBGYN in Illinois. When I returned for my second look, I met Amy Achiko. She became my partner in all things medical school, from step studying, research, serving on committees on our Fort Wayne campus, and navigating through residency applications together. She will stay in Indiana as a diagnostic radiology resident. Being a regional campus student presented us with unique experiences, But the family we created has indeed sustained us through this journey. People like Bianca Blattner, a soon-to-be general surgery resident in Pittsburgh, welcomed us into our home on multiple occasions to celebrate holidays, baby showers, and end-of-semester celebrations. And Michaela Burrell, who became our campus mother, always available to listen and provide encouragement and banana bread before our exams. Michaela has served as the president of the statewide wellness committee, providing much-needed support during grueling academic periods, especially in the season of COVID-19. She will continue her training in Cincinnati in pediatrics. Moving to Indianapolis and meeting students like Maria Khan, Aida Haddad, and Eric Aksu, and seeing their dedication to the students and the community with their service at the Student Outreach Clinic inspired me. It motivated me to continue being proactive in advocating for others. I can go on, but I think my point is clear. We have met mentors, students, and people who have become our village through our time here. Those who have walked with us through this journey and took our challenges as those that could be fought together. What's become clear to me is what IUSM has said from day one, and it still rings true, that despite having 9 campuses, we are one school. This class has worked hard to ensure that no voice felt silence. Everyone had a seat at the table, and we all should have a chance to pursue our goals and live life happily and without compromise. Thank you to my fellow female orthopods, Priyanka, Lauren, Hannah, and Maddie, who created a community of support during a harrowing application season, intent on increasing diversity in a field where it's lacking. Thank you to my brothers and sisters who always fought for diversity and inclusivity. Thank you for taking the initiative with White Coats for Black Lives and allowing the space to address and understand race-based health disparities and be a part of that change. Thank you for creating support groups and safe spaces for your classmates to address their issues of concern during these unprecedented times. When no one would have faulted any of us for retreating, this class took it upon ourselves to make sure those around us were taken care of. We put together blood drives and COVID isolation centers for the homeless, organized and participated in grocery delivery services, provided free childcare, tutoring services, pet care for those on the front lines. Many even volunteered their time to the hospitals to fill in the blanks that the pandemic caused. Members of this class volunteered at COVID testing sites, vaccine clinics, and even volunteered to be a part of the AstraZeneca vaccine trial. We even had members of this class creating food delivery services for the frontline workers and partnering with a local whiskey company to make and distribute hand sanitizer to essential workers. Dr. Anthony Fauci said it best. Now is the time, if ever there was one, for us to selflessly care for one another. And this class has gone above and beyond that call to action. With every new mentorship initiative, growth and addition to the Student Outreach Clinic, approval of new student interest groups, this class made IU a more inclusive space for its students and the community we live in. Thank you, class of 2022, for being your brothers and sisters' keeper. This is what IU stands for, and I hope that you do not abandon your spirit of advocacy and continue to stand up for your colleagues and patients wherever your path takes you. As our favorite TV surgeon, Dr. Meredith Gray, says, "Don't let fear keep you quiet. You have a voice, so use it. Speak up. Raise your hands, shout your answers, and make yourself heard. Whatever it takes, find your voice. And when you do, fill the silence." It was the best of times and sometimes the worst of times, but every second was worth it, and I would never trade my time here for anything. Thank you all, and congratulations once again to the class of 2022. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chechuku, for a wonderful presentation, and congratulations. We now invite Allison Essex to make comments on behalf of the class. Allison is a PhD graduate from the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology from Winter Haven, Florida. She began her research career in pregnancy immunology at the University of Miami in Coral Gables, and has grown to love bone and muscle biology under the direction of Drs. Lillian Plotkin and Andrea Bonetto. Allison is a finalist for the Presidential Management Fellows, a leadership development program hosted by the federal government. Dr. Essex.
Ooh, that's high. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to not only to speak at our commencement, but to share in the joy and anxiety that a day like today brings. I'm excited for today because it gives us the opportunity to give ourselves space, to appreciate our accomplishments that brought us here, to feel pride in the work done to get us to this point, something us researchers and lab rats don't typically do often. But look around. No, really look around at the people around you who helped get you to this moment. Hi, Mom. If they can't be with us, let them be with you in your thoughts and with your gratitude. We did not get here alone. We all got advice from those in the audience or graduating beside us that helped us overcome obstacles and challenges we faced throughout our training. But not all advice is good advice. Some of it's kind of bad. I bet you can think of some terrible advice you've gotten during your career and your training. As a public high school student in a small town of Central Florida, I was given the advice that science was for boys, that I should focus on getting a job to start a family with. When I graduated with my degree from the University of Miami, I was told not to get a PhD because research is too hard. Joke's on you, I study bone. A lot of bone jokes to be had. When I got to my PhD, I was told to sacrifice my personal life, forego time with family and friends to focus on my research and training students. I was told to postpone learning new skills and gaining experience outside of the lab so I could focus on finishing my research faster and worry about skills needed to get a job later. If I had taken any of that advice, not only would I not be here today with you all, but I would not have the opportunity to shape federal policy in Washington, D.C. And let's go. And maybe that's the most important lesson we were meant to learn. What advice to take and what to leave behind. And although you probably should not take advice from somebody who was educated by the Florida public school system, I will go ahead and give you a piece of advice that I hold dear to myself. Remain steadfast in your commitment to what is right. We must wear our values on our sleeve, ready to support each other in standing up against discrimination and unjust laws. We must be ready to show solidarity and declare our integrity as unwavering in the face of injustice and oppression. Let's be honest with ourselves. These next few years are going to challenge us in ways we could never be trained for. Whether going into postdoctoral positions, industry, teaching, or government, an ever-increasing burden is being placed on us. We are being tasked with solving some of the world's most pressing crises in human history, while fighting active movements to stifle the very reform that would save us by those who pretend their leadership precludes success. We have watched entire generations take to the streets in protest. We joined them, and it is clear the fight for our rights have only just begun. But when we leave these halls and begin our next journey, know that you're not alone. Our community that we build around us strengthens us. It's critical for our collective success. And if you want proof of this, because I know how much a crowd like this loves their data, look no further than the trabecular bone in your spine. Yes, we're going into bone. This network of bone must be connected to each other in order to provide strength and resilience. If you have enough trabecular bone but they're not connected, they don't support each other and they are weak. And if you do have trabecular bone, if they're not connected, they will not be strong enough to resist pressure. If you look around, there are probably a few fellow graduates or audience members you leaned on for support, partners, friends. As we face these upcoming challenges and come under immense pressures, just like our bones, don't be afraid to lean on each other for strength. United we stand, divided we fall has never been more true for our future as it is today, and is maybe a piece of advice we should be thinking about as we become leaders in our respective fields. When we show solidarity en masse, when we bring our problem solving to the table, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could alone. Enriching our communities of support will give us the strength to face these upcoming challenges together. As we all collectively allow ourselves to feel joy and pride in our accomplishments today, I hope you will consider yourself a trabeculae, and as part of this scientific community, moving into this great unknown together. May our future shine brighter together. Congratulations again to the Indiana University class of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Drs. Amelia and Essex, for those important comments. As we are nearing the end of our ceremony, class of 2022, please accept my very best wishes for a life filled with joy, peace, fulfillment, contentment, and the sense of making a personal, positive difference in the lives of others every day. As a community of scholars and learners, faculty and students, we arrive at this day together with great pride. With confidence, we send you forth as graduates of the Indiana University School of Medicine. You are well prepared for the next stage of your education. As you go forward, I ask you to commit yourselves to the highest professional and ethical standards, to render to each person the dignity that is rightfully theirs, to be compassionate to those in need, and to remember with pride the Indiana University School of Medicine, as we proudly will remember you. I now ask Dean Hess to return to the podium for the physician's oath.
A physician oath has been part of the profession of medicine for millennia, but their use became much more prevalent after World War II. The Declaration of Geneva of the World Health Organization was first developed in 1948 and has been modified several times since then. Based originally on principles of the Hippocratic Oath, the version used by our school was first modified in 2017. Will the Doctor of Medicine graduates and all physicians present please stand and join me in reciting the physician's oath. The oath is located at the back of your program. If you will please recite it with me. As a member of the medical profession, I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the service of humanity. The health and well-being of my patient will be my first consideration. I will respect the autonomy and dignity of my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will respect the secrets that are confided in me even after the patient has died. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity and in accordance with good medical practice. I will foster the honor and noble traditions of the medical profession. I will give to my teachers, colleagues, and students the respect and gratitude that is their due. I will share my medical knowledge for the benefit of the my own health, well-being, and abilities in order to provide care of the highest standard. I will not use my medical knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I take these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. All graduates, would you please rise and face the audience? And at this time, you may move your tassels to the left. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Indiana University class of 2022. Will everyone please rise and remain at your seats while the faculty and students recess? Thank you.